Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the calm before the storm. Welcome to Bonsai Acres. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the PSGF, I just want to work on a tree before the relatives come over and, well, I can't rhyme on the spot like that. Hi everyone, it is a glorious December the 23rd of 24. The year is winding down, but this is the beginning programming, of course, for my season number 7. We kicked that off a couple of nights ago. It was so fun to live broadcast 2 nights in a row. First one was just a test. We got a whole bunch of people on. And then on Saturday, I showed you what was coming up here in 2025. It's going to be an exciting year, I think. So the live stream was a success, and people chiming in, having fun, and just talking bonsai. I just can't thank everybody enough for being a part of that. And so that's going to be what's going to happen in 2025. A few more live streams. So if you've missed out on that, go take a check at that episode. But I'm going to live stream a couple of times in the coming late winter and spring months here, all in preparation for the great big, huge, tremendous, fantastic, well, I hope it is, the YouTube Bonsai Expo. Sometime in the middle of summer, the date to be determined, I'm going to broadcast live for 6 to 8 hours, a little bonsai marathon, hopefully with all of you. So for more details, or if you're interested in learning more about it, go ahead and send me an email. I'm always at bonsaiacres@gmail.com. And I'm looking for pictures of your favorite tree, and we'll talk about that in coming episodes. I'm looking for those folks who are YouTube channel content providers. If you'd like to sit down with a one-on-one with me and add a little content, or perhaps create a video that we can showcase on this great big World Expo here. Worldwide coverage on a live stream. We can make the debut of all these great content providers all in one special day. So if you'd like to do more with that, please reach out, bonsaiacres@gmail.com. And again, if you just want to share a picture, I want to show viewer pics throughout this live stream, because that'll be the good buffers and transitions between guests and all of that. And I have confirmed, everybody, I have confirmation before the new year even rings in, that Nigel Saunders of the Bonsai Zone will be the keynote speaker / presenter. He'll be around on that day to be a part of the YouTube Bonsai Expo. More on that to come throughout the winter and spring. Keep posted here on Dave's Bonsai. Hey, but you know what? Christmas is going to start for me, well, the second part of Christmas, because we already had a small little gathering yesterday with my dad. But tomorrow, Christmas Eve, is the big family get-together, and then Christmas, all the kids go to their other parents, and it's another day for me to probably make more videos, to be honest, because it's a pretty quiet day. So today, the calm before the storm, well, let's just relax and work on a tree. So today I'm going to work on a couple of junipers. Now it is December, they are in their dormancy period, and I'm just going to cut off some of the branches that I know are just not going to be needed for next year. I might repot this guy in the spring. It's been a couple of years in this pot now. If I have time, this is one of those trees that I will put off if I need to for a few other trees. But I might want to try to see what this guy is doing down below. We have a little bit of moss growing by the trunk right here. We don't want the moss climbing up the trunk, so I just want to make sure I clean that off before I forget. I'm going to keep all the moss right here in the soil, because this is good moss, and this will be good for future. So just scraping off a little moss as I get ready to work on this. So this is a blue star juniper. And I really had fun with this one about a year or so ago when I put this one in the pot, and got a lot of reaction from people too. They were interested in this one, and I hope it's going to have some really good things to come. It is a triple trunk tree. Now these blue star junipers have a little bit more of a loose foliage, and they have a lot more flopsy mopsy look to them. I've got this triple trunk here. I did take off the wire here because I noticed things were starting to edge in just a little bit, and so I took the wire off earlier this year, and then I just left it alone. But now this is a good time for me in December in Minnesota, in the PSGF, to just cut off the stuff that I know is probably not going to be needed for next year. That's the front view there from the close-up camera. Here's the front view from the front on camera here. And yeah, how are we going to manipulate this guy? This tree has fallen back a little bit in the distance here from being a little bit straight up, but that's very typical for junipers that are very, again, flopsy-mopsy. These two, I think, have solidified in this curve shape here. So we made these bends in here and got a little shape to this tree. And this one in the back is just going to be fine that way for right now. So let's just see what I might be thinking on this tree and why. I have a couple of branches right here that are totally mimicking each other. Looks like there was an old branch right there. And the only thing that's wrong with this right now at the moment is that this branch is kind of looks like it's poking straight up and becoming a bother. Now, you have to be careful with branches like this, because if it was like this when I walked in today, that looks kind of straight up. But if I were just to put this down a little bit, look at that, it's not even as much of an eyesore anymore, just with my hand moving it down this way. That's because it's a nice soft young growth. What I could do is maybe cut off this one branch right here, and then it lays real nice out here, out in front towards us. This one back here though is growing straight up. So if you turn to that close-up camera, I don't know if that's much closer, but right there, that one's straight up in the air. I'm going to cut that off, bring it back to this camera here. That gives us our little gap between these two branches. Now, they're two similar branches doing the exact same thing, so will I keep both of them? Not necessarily. This one is going to be the longer, more majestic branch. This one might be a little bit shorter. Let's just cut the tip of this guy off right here, so it makes it a little bit shorter, and then we just have kind of, you know, conical shape, if you will. But this one, hopefully, you'll be able to see some light. And I like that there's another branch right in here. Here's some of the new young growth right here, some of the back buds, if you will, on a pretty young branch. But we're just going to leave those two alone. I just cleaned it up. But now, if you can see from that camera back over there in the front here, the camera you're looking at now, there's a branch back here. Let's take a peek at that one as we twist it around. So that gives us nice texture in the back, but from the front view, it clogs everything. So here's what I'm talking about, is this section right in here. So it comes over here, nice section of the tree over here, but then back here it's lost with all these branches and it gets kind of convoluted back here. So again, from the front, there's all kinds of branches back here, and this is the one we want to see, that part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off this inner branch right there. That guy was sitting right there, right in there, right in that back section right now. There's still a branch coming out, but it's more coming out straight in the back. That might be the new life of this branch right here. And as a matter of fact, I will cut this one back and we'll just leave that one nice and small, and we'll see what the sun does to that one next year. And that could be a nice little secondary branch right there, or a primary branch lower on the tree rather. And then we have a big thick top up here. So it's a little top heavy. All of these are the same size right now. Do I want to consider shortening that for next year? I probably will shorten something. We'll see when we look at all three trees. Now, this is the front of the tree, and this branch right here is kind of right in our face. It kind of blocks the view of this beautiful tree. Maybe we just cut him right off. I could have ginned that, but the thing I don't like about gins with really young trees is they look really skinny and small, and as it gets bigger, they're going to be small and skinny, so maybe we'll save that gin for a future larger tree. And then there's another level of branches here. This one looks a little weak. I don't know if that one's going to make it. There's one in the back here. Let's look at that guy. So look here in the back. Right in here, all of this section right here is kind of fluffy. And from the other camera, here you go. It's just kind of messy back here, and there's some younger growth right here up on top of it. I'm just going to cut some of this off right here because I just don't like the direction of that branch. I'm going to leave the young one, though, to see if that comes in nice and strong and healthy. You've got two little shoots right there. It's a little bit thinner up top there. So we got this real thick top here. What are we going to do and why? Well, this tree is moving this way. I could continue it moving this way, or do I want it to come back up taller? So maybe I cut this branch over here, and that's what I'm going to do, is cut this one off right here. That comes away. So now we have a gap here in the tree. And again, I could pinch some of these as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just cut this lower branch off here, this lower branch off here for this side. And then this branch is coming way out towards the front. If I just shorten that guy up a little bit there, and I shorten this guy back here, now we just thinned out the top. Now the top's going to have all the energy, and we want some of the energy to thicken up this bottom branch here and see if we can get this thing to survive and these down here to survive. This might all come off in the future. So we're still a little bit robust. So let's go ahead and let's cut those off. Let's cut this one facing the front off and just leave a little bit less branches up here so it's not so dominant up there. So I'm just thinning this thing out a little bit. There we go. Now we have just a nice thin tree here. The light can get everywhere. So as I turn around to the close-up camera, right back here, we've got a real thin tree that's got air and pockets all over it to see what that's going to do in the future. So I like that first tree just like that. Again, nothing major. We're just going to make sure the energy in the spring gets pushed out to all of these existing branches. And then when we fertilize real heavily with this tree, we're going to get all kinds of hopeful back budding on here. So now this guy also is a very top-heavy tree. There's no branches down low, which is a bummer, but this right here is the first primary branch. So years from now, this will probably have to be a much taller tree, because this is the first primary branch on this guy. There's one here too, but it kind of comes out at us and then over to this other tree here. We'll leave it there for now. It's alive. But look at this guy dangling right in front of us. Let's go ahead and just cut him right off. He's kind of coming in an inside of a curve, and just cutting that one branch off makes this tree right here look so much better right there. Looks a lot better just because that branch is not dangling down. And again, these blue star junipers lend themselves to kind of long and lanky, and so you have to rely on it thickening up, cutting it back with back budding, and then getting new branches. And right here, here's a young new branch that might take over so I can cut off some of the length and the legginess. Now this also right here is very long and leggy. Let's cut this guy off right there. It's going towards that tree. Now this tree is a little more isolated, growing up a little bit more here, and we have a fine tree. I notice here's the main trunk from before. We've got a nice split right here and here. We're going to continue with that split right there to make another nice little gap between this tree right there. So I just took, now that was a little bit thicker of a branch. I could have almost ginned that, but it's right in front of the tree, and gins right in front of the tree are going to get your attention. This one can grow maybe out towards us a little bit more and fill some area because the tree is a little bit thin this way, as you can tell. Right here, thin, but in time we'll get some more branching. So now we thin that out a little bit, and now I've got these three right here. Boom, boom, and boom. So as I turn around this way, what do I got up here? A kind of a double down here, there and there. And we have this over here and this over here. This is the main tree. I'll leave that alone maybe. But what do I do with this over here? And maybe there's this, maybe this is a little bit too long back in here. We cut that off, and this one reaching over here. I think I'm going to shorten it up there and shorten it up there. And now that's the main branch right there. We just cut off the tip stuff and some stuff out here. We'll see what this thing does right here. We can leave that one alone, but then we have all this thickness right here. Now for 3 dimensions, I like this branch actually better than keeping the one back here, because we have a nice branch down below. We have a nice branch going towards the back for some texture, so I'm actually going to cut this section right here off. Right there. There we go. Now there's some air right there between this lower branch and this, and we want this to be healthy. This is our first primary branch on this guy other than this front thing. And so I just opened up that tree a little bit more. And then as I go in here, I've got some other branches trying to grow there. Let's thin that out a little bit. Let's cut the tip and thin this one out a little bit. And now we just have a thinner tree that I hope will continue to push up some really nice growth. I see another branch trying to clog it up right here. You see that guy right there? We're going to cut him even further back than I thought I could. And let's leave that one alone. So that one's looking pretty good. I'll show you from the side. That tree is looking pretty decent all the way up now. Bring it back this way. Now I see a little clutter back here. That's from the other tree, and there's one branch dangling. Let's look at that right here. This guy back here is dangling towards the back. Let's just cut him shorter and see what other branches will take over next year. There we go. And then this guy is coming way in from this back tree. Let's just cut him short right there to keep the gaps on there as well. That also provides a little bit more depth of field because there's a gap here and not just a big clump of foliage. So I like the gaps, and we're going to make these things kind of grow up, and then they'll grow together eventually as we keep them growing. So 2 trees done. We just have the back one now. So as you see it leaning from the left side over here, You know, it's again pretty flat this way, so we want to have more of a round kind of tree, conical if you will, but still kind of thicker. It's a very thin tree from left to right. Look at that thinness. But from the front, it doesn't look quite as bad, and we're hoping like stuff like this will fill it in. But I see this branch right here. So if you look from the other side view, from the close-up cam, if you will, look at this branch right here. It's kind of shooting towards the front of the structure. It's not a bad branch. I don't mind it, but I'm going to cut just ever so much off right there. It's kind of like going from 3 to 2. Now we've got this and this right here. So there's my split to 2. I had 1, 2, 3 in that same area. Now it's just that, still facing forward, but not quite as in our face. We'll let that one go. And as a matter of fact, let's go a step further, and here's why. I've got a branch that comes up here and then here, but let's cut the middle one off right here. There we go. And now we have a branch growing out that way and a branch for some height. And again, we can always wire this up again in the future to make it go up a little bit higher. So we have to be careful a little bit about what we cut off. But also the sun will make the branches maybe grow more up. So we in the back do have that nice split back here. There's a really nice thick branch here. But look what's going on here with all this branch back here in the background. So this is a little bit big. Let's cut that right off. There we go. Now it's a little bit thinner. And now again, we have kind of 3 branches growing in this area here. And I think I'm going to cut this big one off right here. So here we go. We'll cut that one off. And now look, I've got those 2 and then it splits into 2 up there. Nice and airy. Plus we got this one. They are growing a little bit different shapes here, but if we cut this one off a little bit shorter as well, it won't be as pronounced. And there we have a little bit thinner top right there. But because these 2 grow the same direction, the same pattern back up towards the center, I'm going to actually cut this whole one off right here. And let's have these 2. This one be the leader, and maybe I'll even cut this a little bit shorter, and we'll let that side grow. And because that's the background tree, that one necessarily I don't think should be the tallest tree. Right now we have this is the tallest tree. It's taken over in height. And if I cut this one down one more little 3 to 2, that's a little bit shorter, and maybe this should even be a tad shorter than that. Now it's the thickest tree, so it's hard to see what everything is doing back here. And so like this branch is kind of growing sideways. Let's cut that one off. Got that one gone. Here's that cutting point from before. We'll just clean that up just a little bit. There we go. Pretty thick in here. Let's let it grow up and cut it much shorter because that is the apex of the tree. Let's cut this one off entirely actually, now that I see that back there. Yeah, now we've got a little more conical shape up here. We'll cut the tip off there. So now this one is shorter than this guy. So taller, a little bit shorter, about same size as here. We'll see what we take apart. The more I look at this, I'm not liking this at all. Let's just take it right off, everybody. And now we can see the shape of that tree. I don't mind that. Here's another branch just kind of growing inward. We'll cut that guy off. That was, this growth up here was covering up this nice lower branch. So we're gonna keep that one going outside. So let's cut all that off to promote this outside growth. And for that to happen, I need this big branch gone. Let's do that, everybody. We're cutting that whole thing off there. There. Now I hope that branch right there, that branch takes off right there, okay? Right here. This branch right here is gonna maybe grow up in this direction. And it's much thinner back there. This one's kind of growing down. This is kind of a bar branch to the one I want to have growing really nice. So let's just cut that whole thing off. We cut that whole thing off, so this now is that primary first branch way back here. Okay, as you look through there here, right here, that's the first primary branch. Then it comes over to this left side and it's really thick. Let's cut the thick part off and shorten this one down. And that's the second primary branch. And we'll see which one of those survives. We've got a little bit of growing up right in the middle. Let's clean that off. Kind of a branch that's just kind of clogging things up in there. So now we have kind of right, left, and then left, right. Let's cut that one off. This is going straight up. I think we'll cut this one off because it's going more downward. This one back here is growing more downward. And so we've just cleaned that up a little bit. So as we lift that up, it's just cleaner. We can see again more gaps. We can cut this one, it's growing towards the back off. We can cut this one off by the trunk so we have more air in there. And now it's more spacious and airy. We can cut this one going down off, and we'll just cut the tip off here. There we go. It's time to put the scissors down on tree number 1. So there we have the Blue Star Juniper. I cut off about 35 to 45% of the foliage, maybe 35. And we just have a lot of air pockets in there. Now I'm going to fertilize this thing heavy in the spring, and we hope it's just going to push out all kinds of new growth, including all kinds of back budding in here, and then we'll see where it goes. So there's the side view there. A little bit closer. And of course from the front. So tree number 1, let's see what else we can putz with today. Now tree number 2 is a Japanese garden juniper. So this one was, I think, potted up this past year. So it's only been one growing season in this pot. And we got a little gin down here, if you can kind of see that guy shooting up. It's kind of going up this way, then it curves big over to the right. So kind of an interesting tree. Now this one has a lot of what looks like a dying tree. It's got all that brown on there. If you look at the other camera here, we get a close-up of these branches. And yeah, we've got some brownness to these branches. But now, I'm not too concerned because we have a lot of new growth on this tree, which I'm excited about. So we can cut back to some of these new growths, and that'll be the tree for next year. So I talk a lot at the Minnesota Bonsai Society workshops about this concept right here. And let's go ahead and talk about it. You see these branches right here? From out front, look at these 3 branches. Long and scraggly, and the tips are nice. Long and scraggly with dying, foliage, getting old, falling off. But look what's in the middle of all of that. So let's get the close-up of that. Here are the 3 branches right here, but look what's in the middle of all that. Right there. This guy right there. That is the new part of the tree. Right there. That's going to become this tree in the future. So because there's so much growth back in there, I'm going to go ahead and let's cut off this one up here. Let's cut off this one right there for sure, and let's cut this one entirely off. Let's cut this bottom one entirely off because there's some more growth there. There's some growth in the back, but this has a growth that could become the whole entire branch, and then these 2 will be gone. Peter T. always talks about how much can you cut off, how much green do you have to leave on in order to keep that branch alive. I think I have enough green up here to keep this whole branch alive, and when this takes off in the summertime, these will be the first 2 ones I take off. Now, could I take these off right now? This will be a good time and a good tree for me to experiment on, and go ahead and cut that off and experiment. You don't know until you do, so let's do. Now, when Peter T. talked about that with us, he probably knows all the trees out there a whole lot better than I do. 10, 20, 30 times more the knowledge and experience, infinite, right? But until you practice, you don't know. There's green up there, it's young. I fertilize this heavy in the spring. I'll keep this in the plant room, or excuse me, the PSGF, so it will not be exposed to super, super harsh treatment this winter, right? And so there's one spot where that looks really like a stub right now, but that'll grow and turn into something really nice eventually, especially if I fertilize pretty heavily. And I've got a couple of stragglers hanging down this way. I'm just going to cut those off. We're going to do some clean off of some of these branches. Now there's one down here and there's one down here. It's just a really, really died off stuff right there. And then this back here is a lovely new branch to this tree. And this branch back here below this one, if this does not survive this cutting and this experiment, I've got this whole branch back here that'll keep me going. So I am fine with that experiment today. Here's a couple more deads. We'll cut those off. And so that's that one branch. Now let's go back to the front of the tree, and that's kind of over here to the left side. This tree is going that way, so I don't mind if that branch even dies off, because the focus of this tree is going to be going that way in the near future. And this one does come more at us, and so we might be cutting some of that off in the future anyway. I cut the bottom of that branch off right now. Okay, so now this front branch has a really scraggly branch growing right there, but let's go again in close. I'll have my chopstick right here for you. Here's the big long branch, and here's a branch where we have again that brown and dying look to it. But look right in here at the tip of my chopstick. Right here. This is all new growth. There's one right there. There's one right there. That's back budding. If need be, those branches can be used in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this guy off completely right there. Let's go ahead and cut off this dying tip that just looks kind of not very, very nice. And when I talk with people about bonsai, remember, we're always trying to go from thick to thin to thinner. All the people talk about taper. Thick to thin to thinner. So here's the thick trunk. We got the gin over there, and here's the first primary branch. This is thick and this is thinner. If I wanted to be bold right now, I could cut this entire branch off right back to this guy right here by my back fingers. This right here could be the new part of that branch. It would give it movement towards the back, then we could bring it back towards the front, and we'd have thick to thin in a really short, compact area. So that's one of the things that we are considering. Now, since this is going towards us, I'll cut this off for now, and I'll save these two for the spring. And again, I might cut this one off at the next pruning if this continues to grow solid and I want to keep any of these branches back here. This one, though, I will cut off. It's on the curve right in the front of our view. I don't want to see that. This one's going down. I'm just going to cut it off for right now. So there we just totally cleaned up that branch. I don't need all that excess stuff for next year. This is plenty of green to let this thing stay alive. And we got this branch with the one we are going to experiment on and see how that does. And now let's go back here. Look at this branch, everybody. As you look at the close camera, look, I'm lifting it up and look at how from way down here to way up here, it's just this long, scraggly branch. I'm just cutting the whole thing down because I don't think I'm going to get any new growth down there. And it's just super long and straggly. So again, we're cleaning up trees, right? Now let's look at the back of this tree. Now if I spread open the back, what's down below, everybody? There's that new back budding again. Let's see what it looks like from the close-up camera. There is brand new growth right there. That's brand new back budding. Now it's growing right at the base of the tree, so it's a competitor to this one, so we might not want it. But I know I don't want all of this tree back here, so I'm going to cut that shorter. And you see this one that's kind of straggly. I'm going to cut that one. I'm going to cut this straggly one and this straggly one. And I think this straggly one, we'll just cut this one shorter. And there we go. Now as you spin it around, look at how open and nice it's all growing out this way. We'll let things shoot up next year with heavy fertilization and see what we got. There's the left side of the tree. Now we've got this right movement. You can see where the leader of this tree was, right? I mean, look at that from the front and look at all this growth that just took off, right? Well, we can keep that to make things as a sacrificial branch to thicken everything up if that's the direction this tree is going to go. And I don't know yet till we dig a little deeper. But here again is some nice back budding right in here. Close-up camera right there. Right there between my finger and my thumb, that's all new growth right here. That's the new stuff. So if I cut this back and I cut this back, look what I left, all that new stuff. I don't need that long spindly stuff. And look back here. You see back here, everybody? That's all new growth. This past year, let's cut off this long spindly stuff. Let's cut off this long spindly stuff, and let's cut off this one. And now from the front, here's the new tree. So I always talk about people with these, even wiring this size of a branch, that's going to be cut off in a season, most likely, depending upon how successful we are at growing out our trees and with all our back budding from plenty of fertilization. So, and as I cut more of these scraggly ones away, again, here is new branches, all nice and green, all right in here. Cut off the scraggly ones and keep the newer ones. This one, I'm just going to cut shorter and leave it alone for the moment. But right here, this could be a new secondary leader if I was that bold. But we got to let that grow up stronger to see if it's even going to survive. And this one's a pretty nice, big, stiff branch. But we're going to see what that does for next year as well. Now this one's growing at us a little bit. It's covering up all this down here, and I've got all this nice new growth up here. Let's cut off this long straggly one first, though. I've got all this nice growth up here, so let's just cut this one off. Let's just get rid of that. Look at how I just shortened and shrunk and brought back that tree, and look at that's all new growth, everybody. That's this year's growth. That was back budding. Then we have this long guy right here. What do we want to do with the long guy? Well, let's look at the back here. Again, look at all this straggly stuff. Long, leggy, maybe dying off there. That one. Oh, that was a big branch. I went too fast on that one, everybody. Slow down there, Mr. Dave. But that's the back of the tree, and I don't mind at all. I've got this nice here for some back part of the tree. I don't mind losing that branch, so I got pretty lucky. Just take your time. Do as I say, not as I do sometimes, everybody, right? There we go. This one's down and almost dead. This one I don't like at all. But here's the new one right here. This is new growth, everybody. So this long branch is super nice. We are going to maybe keep it as a sacrificial to thicken all this stuff up. I just don't know. Yeah, it was cut right here, everybody. So here was the last cut point, right in here. Right where my scissors is touching between my fingers, right there. There's where the chop was, everybody. Right in there. Right above my fingers, in between my fingers. So that's why it's shooting out all this growth in here, all the energy you wanted to push out new growth right there. So we can cut this entire branch off. We don't need it because this is more sacrificial. And because we have so many branches to choose from, I'm going to go right ahead. And here we go. Big cut coming up. That one's gone. This one looks pretty dry, and there's a nice little section of green in there. We'll see if that even stays alive. We've got a lot of back budding down in here. We've got a lot of green in here, so this whole branch could probably come off here sometime. I do like how this is the first primary that comes over to here, so I don't have two in a row, but this one's a little weak right now, and it does got a little bit more death on there than I'd like to see. But if I go ahead and cut off some of the straggly stuff, leave some of the green, we'll see what happens to this tree next spring, right? All right, we have a lot of stuff growing up here. We got a lot of thick patches of the new growth. And so now we just cleaned up this tree. We can see more of this tree. It's got some funky curves to it. It's got some funky old curves to it. The Japanese garden juniper, the Bocumbens Nana, a little bit different than that blue star, but we cleaned it up and got it ready for a big spring push as I fertilize heavy this coming spring. Fantastic. A chance to work on a couple of trees before part two, really, of the Christmas celebrations in our family. The big one is tomorrow, Christmas Eve. So today being Christmas Eve, what a great way to relax, right, with some trees. Thanks for joining me, as always, on this beautiful 25-degree Fahrenheit day in Minnesota. But we are expecting upper 30s and rain by the weekend, so the white Christmas will disappear pretty quick. Yeah, that weather roller coaster, I don't think it's ever going to stop. That's the way it's been for the last couple of years, and I don't see any signs of change other than we know it's going to keep changing. Take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you on the next one. Welcome to Bonsai Acres.